my dragons, I'm back. I'm here to do the mid-year freakout tag. I've seen everyone doing this, and I normally do this video and then I do like a top 10 books that I've read once I've read 100 books, which I just did hit that. So you'll probably see that video coming either in the next couple of weeks. I might film it today or tomorrow, but you might see it in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, let's get into it. I got these questions from Megan a Books channel. And yeah, I'm excited to chat through it. As you guys know, I'm very much like a list-based person. I like to follow lists. So yeah, that's why I like to keep stats. Some people it stresses some people out. For me, it doesn't really stress me out. I just like to keep track of what I'm reading, and I like to set goals and I like to meet them. So the first question is, what is the best book you've read this year? So I can't choose one thing. So I'm just kind of choosing the 3 genres I read the most of, or like the three type of books that I read the most of. So definitely my favorite book of the year as of right now is The Isles of the Gods by Amy Kaufman. I devoured this book. I read it. I want to read it again. I at this point have like 4 editions of this book. This book was perfect in every way. It was a YA fantasy book that had the right amount of stakes. It had 3 characters, but basically you follow a couple of characters as they go on an adventure to kind of stop the gods from waking, and you follow a sailor girl who is one of my favorites. You follow Keegan, who is a scholar. You follow Leander, who's a prince, and you follow a couple of other characters, both on the side of good and evil. And oh my god, this book blew me away. Amy Kaufman has never written a YA book by herself, but oh my god, I was in heaven when I read this book. So good. If you want romance, if you want high seas action, if you want just a really complicated plot, I would check this book out because I loved it. I devoured it. I really, really want to reread it, but this definitely is one of my books, my favorite books of the year, of the whole year. And you'll probably see this book pop up in a couple of other questions as well. Contemporary wise, I don't really have any adult books that kind of stood out so far this year, but Begin Again by Emma Lord is a YA book that really stood out to me. This is her newest YA book. It's set in college. Sorry, my puppy needs to see what's happening. Hi, Cass. Hi. Hi. I just had to do it, didn't I? And this is her first foray into college, but you basically follow this main character. Oh, what is her name? Andy. And she kind of goes and she kind of transfers to be with her boyfriend, but then her boyfriend like breaks up with her, and it's just very, very much like a friendship story. There is kind of legally blonde elements to it. Oh my god, I swear to god, she does not do this when I don't film. But it's very, very much a coming of age story. There's a lot of friendship elements to the story that I really, really loved. And it was like a warm hug. I love Emma Lord, and I was so happy that she kind of changed setups a bit because this book was set in college. I think her next one is also set in college. But yeah, I really liked it and I gave it 5 stars. And then middle grade, I cannot let this book go without talking about it. But The Sun and the Star by Rick Riordan and Marco Shiro also definitely took the cake. It was really nice that Nico finally got his own story. I love the structure of this read. I love the characters. I love the adventure. It's LGBTQ+. And I think that for these 2 characters, it was really important that they got their own story. And I just really, really loved it. I got to go to the event in early May as well. So yeah, these are my 3 books that so far stood out to me. And now let's get to the other questions. Sometimes I have to pause and like go look at my Goodreads. But some of them I don't have to. I think the next question is, what is the best sequel you've read this year? And that's also super easy. That would be Rain by Catherine McGee. It's not actually out yet for you guys, but I will attach a photo here. And this is like the final book in her American Royal series. I read Rivals as my first book of the year and was like, oh my dear heavens, I need to read book 4. There was a massive cliffhanger at the end of Rivals and I devoured this book. I read it so quick. I read it when we were having really, really poor air quality and we couldn't go to work. I read it in like a day. It was great. I would not be opposed to having more books set in the series following different side characters, but this book really did a lot of things that I super liked. So yeah, that is where we are with that. But I'm so happy that I read that. And I have a couple of other sequels that I really do want to read in the next couple of months just because they just came out, but that's the one that stands out to me so far. And what's a new release you haven't been able to read but want to? This one's super easy. Let me go get it. I have heard everyone and their mother chat about Fourth Wing, so I have to put Fourth Wing on here because I just have to read it. I went to ALA and they were giving away art copies, and it is Fly or Die. It is a Dragon Rider new adult college themed book, and I'm so excited for this one. I know it has disability rep. Everyone and their mother has been chatting about it, so I automatically need to read it, and I was so happy that I finally got a copy. Every other way I tried just failed, so I got this. I will definitely be pre-ordering the second book in the future, and if I really cannot get a copy of the nice version, I will probably just get a regular copy and they just won't match, but that's okay. I know Fairy Loot is going to do a resale in October, which I'll probably try to get it on, but I'm not gonna fret. I do have a book now to read, which is very, very exciting. What is a book that is coming out in the second half of the year that you're like super excited about? And honestly, there's so many options. I just got back from ALA, so there's a lot like just in my frame of reference, but I know for sure Forest Grimm by Catherine Purdy is coming out that I'm really excited for. I would say the one book I don't physically have in my possession, and I'll add a photo, is the new Cassie Clare book, like her adult one. I think it's called The Sword Catcher. I'll attach a photo here. One that I'm like really excited for, and I tried to get an ARC and I failed in my mission, but I still really do want to read it. So if I had to say like any book that I was like going to gun for to like try to get an ARC, it would probably be that one. So definitely The Sword Catcher by Cassie Clare, but you know, a lot of books. Just looking at my shelves, any of the Rick Riordan Present books I'm super excited for as well. So yeah, that would probably be what's my most anticipated release in the second half of the year, would probably be Sword Catcher by Cassie Clare, that I really, really want to get my hands on. I know she's also going to Comic-Con, so I can probably see her there. What is my biggest disappointment? I'm going to go look at my Goodreads and see if something that kind of like stood out to me that was really disappointing, but nothing's clicking in my head. I'm sure if I look at Goodreads, I will see you. So let me go look at that and then I'll check back in with you guys. I just kind of looked, and the only one that I would say was a bit of a disappointment was Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross, because I loved her other books that I read by this author, and this one just didn't hit for me. And I think it's probably because I felt like it was just like a little bit mismarketed. But let me show you guys like the cover. Book should have been pitched as like a historical fiction book with a bit of a magic twist, and that's not how it was pitched. It was pitched as a magic book with a bit of a historical fiction twist, and I just don't think I was prepared for it. I probably would have grabbed the audio, to be very honest, if I had known what the book was, but it just didn't hit. I didn't feel that connected to the characters. It wasn't a book for me, and I think it just fell a little bit by the wayside. So that was one that I was a little bit disappointed by, and one that I wasn't as captivated by, unfortunately. I still want to read her other stuff. I know there is a sequel, so I might try to grab the audio of this one. And biggest surprise, I'm just trying to look through my Goodreads and just trying to see if anything kind of stood out to me as a surprise. You know, I will say When You Wish Upon a Lantern by Gloria Chow. I will attach a photo here. Surprise for me because all of her other books that she had wrote dealt with such heavy, hard-hitting topics, and this book kind of was more sweet. Like, it was not, I wouldn't say it was fluffy, because there was elements that were like really like hard-hitting, but it had a nice balance of like looking at, you know, family relationships that Gloria Chow hadn't done before. And it was a second chance romance. It was Friends to More, which I think is just more my speed. But I went in like a little bit hesitant, but I really, really liked it. There was a baking element, and it was just very, very cute. So it was a surprise to me, because like I felt like I went in kind of thinking I was going to like it, but I really loved it, and I gave it 5 stars. So that's why that one was like a big surprise to me, because every other book in that series, I didn't like. Every other book she wrote, I liked it. I didn't love it, but this one I really, really loved, and I wasn't necessarily expecting that. But yeah, let me give you a pause first. I kind of look through everything, and I've read a lot of authors I've read before, but the only author that I've read like multiple books of that I started reading this year was Abby Jimenez. So I'll attach a photo of my favorite book by her, which was Part of Your World, over here. This just really liked her. I think she does like really fun romances, but with like a heartfelt twist. Like all of them have an element that I just really, really enjoyed. So she'd probably be the author, like the newest author to me that I really enjoyed, that I read a lot from. But yeah, Abby Jimenez, I would probably say, is the one that stood out to me. So if I had to pick like a YA author that I think that also stood out to me, a lot of them I've read before. Okay, see, yeah, I know. Hey, what are you doing? I don't really have any new to me authors. But yeah, so I would say Abby Jimenez is probably the new to me author that I actually read the most of and really want to read more of. So that's where we are with that. I'm going to talk about the next two questions together. It says, who is your favorite character? The newest character you met this year. And I'm definitely going to say Leander from Isles of the Gods, because I loved Leander. I thought that he was so funny, charming, and he has so many layers for a prince, and I just have to shout him out. I just loved how Amy Kaufman wrote him, and my favorite fictional crush is definitely Keegan from this book, and he's like the scholar. I love a man that loves books. I just loved him, and like there was a moment where something happened where he had to like leave something behind and leave his books behind, and I was like, his reaction just made me like, I was near tears, because that was just very, very emotional. But I think those two characters and this whole book, like everyone in this story was great, but those two characters are definitely standouts. And why I mention them, Cassie, I swear. Oh god, okay, now you're gonna see my puppy sitting behind me. And I'm gonna have to go look through Goodreads and see what book made me cry. Actually, I don't have to look it up. I think Fractured Sky by Catherine Cowell is the last book in her Tattered and Torn series, the book that follows Shiloh. And, oh, I can't remember his name. I'll attach a photo here. Book made me cry because there was a very big found family element to that story, and basically that story follows Shiloh. She was kidnapped when she was younger, and the whole kind of story is kind of following all her families as they get their HEAs, and she finally gets her HEA. And I like the romance, but I think the part about that story that I love the most was like her getting her happily ever after and her having a found family that she created. So I really, really like that. That was really, really fun, and that's probably the only book that had me near tears near like the very, very end, and it was just because it was very, very found family focused. And also Isles of the Gods, I teared up at the very, very end. So these two were the two that made me tear up, but I don't cry a lot when I read, but those two were kind of standouts for me. For books that make me happy, I have two editions that I want to add, and one is the T.E. Kinsey series. And there's a lot of them. I think I'm on like book 8 at this point. I think I have like one more book to go, but they're just like cozy mystery series that are just so sweet, and I just really, really like them. And when I read those when I'm sort of like dealing with something, and they're just fun. They're quick listens, but the characters are so funny, their dynamics are so fun, and they kind of subvert all the Regency romance tropes that like we see in a lot of my typical Regency romances. There's two older main characters, there's a maid, and they all solve these mysteries in this quaint English town. So yeah, that is that book, and that is where we're at. My home turned on. And then the next book I would say is Fake Dates and Mooncakes by Shara Lee. This is a paperback from Penguin that came out. I got an e-arc of it, and it was just really, really cute. It was an LGBTQ plus romance about these two guys that are kind of forced to work together, and it was very, very fun. I really liked it. The whole book put a smile on my face. I didn't overthink it. I didn't make it complicated, but it was a very, very fun, quick read, and one that just put a smile on my face. So definitely I would say those two books made me happy. All books make me happy, but those two were standouts that made me happy this year. So the next title is what is the most beautiful book the next question is, what is the most beautiful book you bought this year? And it is most definitely this copy of Isles of the Gods. I got this all the way from Australia. It is the Fable & Co. one. It is signed by her. It is a stunning book. It has these end pages. It has a spine. It even has this beautiful slip case. I am in heaven. This is like a prized possessions of mine, and I never like do special editions, but like this one I had to get because it was just so pretty. It was my favorite book of the whole year. And at this point I need like another, like I just needed a pretty edition of this book because it was my favorite book of the whole year. So that is where we are with this one. It's very, very pretty, and I'm really, really happy that I have it. Definitely cost a lot to come from there, but just stunning. Stunning, stunning, stunning. I'm not a big special edition person. Like I don't have multiple editions of my favorite books. This is the only book that I have multiple editions of right now, so you know it means a lot to me. And you should definitely read it. The next question is, what are the books you need to read by the end of the year? And oh my god, so many. I think I'm just going to make a video of like 10 books I want to read by the end of the year. Now that all this, like, you know, I got new books in the last 6 to 8 months, so I'm probably just going to do that. But so many. I want to read some adult fantasy. That is always my goal, and it never occurs. So I'm really going to take some time this summer and kind of devote to that and maybe do like a reading vlog project. But yeah, that is kind of my plan. And then the last question is, what is like an adaptation that you really, really liked? Honestly, the only adaptation that I've watched is not even a book. It's just like a video game, but I love The Last of Us. Became like a new favorite, all-time favorite show. I also just finished Queen Charlotte, which I really, really liked. I thought that was a fun twist on it. And XOXO Hello Kitty, like XOXO Kitty is another one that they're like loose adaptations, but I do really, really like them. So those are the 3 I'll mention. And yeah, if you have not been tagged, tag yourself. I would love to see you guys do this video. I was tagged by Megan Books, or I was just tagged because I watched your video. But yeah, so let me know in the comments, what is your game plan for the second half of the year? I would love to know. And I'll talk to you guys soon for another video. Bye, Book Dragons.